Hi everyone, this is Priya Vashne and I again welcome you all to our channel. So in this video, we are going to talk about Plato. See, Plato is one of the most important thinker when I talk about the Western political thought topic in the PSIR syllabus, right? So this is a kind of very vast topic. So what we are going to do is we are going to cover this topic in multiple small videos so that it will be easy for you to understand things better, right? So let us start. So first of all, when I talk about Plato, right? So before getting into that what kind of thinker the Plato is, let us know some facts about Plato, right? Let us first know some facts about Plato. So, who was Plato? It is usually said that Plato, or you can say that Socrates, was the teacher of Plato, or you can say that Plato was the disciple of um, disciple of Socrates. And whenever it is said that someone is the disciple of someone, then it automatically implies the influence of the person on the discipline. For example, you also have some teachers in your life, right? So there may be some teachers who have great influence over your personality or over you. So similarly, Plato was greatly influenced by the thoughts of Socrates. So in many of his theories you will actually see that how whatever Plato has said is being influenced by the Socrates idea or theory of knowledge, right? Okay, so Plato is basically considered as the father of political philosophy. He is being considered as father of political philosophy. So do you remember something from this? That when I talked about Socrates, then I said that Socrates is considered as the father of philosophy. Why? Why I said that he is being considered as the father of philosophy? Because he raised the question that what constitutes a good life, right? Because scholars at that time were trying to figure out what constitutes a life, but Socrates raised the question that it is important to know what constitutes a life, but it is more important to understand what constitutes a good life, because leading a good life should be the purpose of a person or purpose of a life, right? So similarly, when I say that Plato is being considered as the father of political philosophy, what is my motto or what is the theme behind it? See, because Plato has told, Plato has told that what constitutes a good political life, a good political life, political life. See, whenever we talk about whenever we talk about politics or whenever we talk about political philosophy, then the most important topic there is the state. We usually talk about the state. So, what Plato did was, Plato was the first person to describe that what constitutes an ideal state. What constitutes an ideal state? Is it clear? So Plato was the first person to tell us what constitutes an ideal state or what constitutes a good political life. Therefore, he is known as the father of political philosophy. Is it clear? He is known as the, sorry, he is known as the father of political philosophy. I hope this is clear to you. Okay. Now, what was the biggest contribution of Plato? So the biggest contribution of Plato is the theory of philosopher king. So these are some facts about Plato, right? So in this video, we are only gonna cover some basic facts about the Plato. We are actually building the foundation to understand the thoughts of Plato, right? Okay, so the most important contribution of Plato was the theory of philosopher king. What was the most important contribution of Socrates? That was the theory of knowledge. And when I talk about Plato, though he has given many theories, but one of the most recognized theory, or when you can say one of the most important theory which Plato gave, was the theory of philosopher king. Right? So in the verse of Plato, until philosophers are the rulers or rulers learn philosophy, there is no end to the predicaments of human life. So what he said was, as you can see here, that he has given the theory of philosopher king. Now what he wants to convey is that a king should be a philosopher, or a king should know the philosophy. So what he said was that until philosophers are the rulers or rulers learn the philosophy, there is no end to the predicaments of the human life. See, uh, all these statements we are gonna see in detail, right? When I will come to the theory of philosopher king, we will see in detail that what exactly Plato meant by it and how Plato is inferring to that statement, right? Okay, now uh, after reading this, let us now understand that what is actually the reason, or you can say, let us now understand the perspective of Plato as a thinker. Okay? Now what we are going to cover is the perspective of Plato as a thinker. See, it is usually said that he was highly imaginative, romantic, and utopian thinker, right? He was highly imaginative, romantic, and utopian thinker. So Plato was very radical in his ideas. So when I say that he was very radical in his ideas, what did I mean was that he gave very extreme solutions to the problems that that were prevailing at that time. For example, he suggested abolishing family and private property. He was actually criticized for his radical ideas by Aristotle. So who was Aristotle? Aristotle basically was the disciple of Plato. So see the hierarchy. So first there was Socrates, who was the teacher of Plato, and then Plato was the teacher of Aristotle. Right? Remember this. Right? Socrates, Plato, and then Aristotle. Is it clear? So, Plato was an imaginative, romantic, and utopian thinker. You will actually understand why I am saying all this, as we will cover the thoughts of Plato. Right? He was very radical in his ideas because he has actually suggested very extreme solutions to the problems that were prevailing at the time. For example, abolishing family, private property, etc., etc. And he was actually criticized, right? He was actually criticized by Aristotle, who was a disciple of Plato. Is it clear? Next, it is said that Plato was idealist. Plato was idealist. Now, this is a keyword, right? Idealist is a keyword. So in order to understand what do you mean by idealist, we should understand what is idealism in politics, right? On what basis we call a thinker as idealist, right? So see, there are two or three, you can say that two three types of concepts. One of them is idealist. So when, let me compare it with materialist. See, what is here? Here is the idea, right? So who is idealist? Who believes in idea? Who believes that idea is real? Who believes that idea is real? Means whatever. See, We actually differentiate between idealist and materialist on the basis of the conception of reality, means that what they consider as reality. So for idealists, whatever the idea they are holding is real, right? For example, and the proponents of this stream is, you can say, Socrates and Plato. ठीक है? And for materialist, matter, right? Matter is real. For example, Karl Marx belonged to this philosophy. So in the words of Karl Marx, idea or ideology is the false consciousness. Idea is the false consciousness. See, I know, I can understand that for now, these words may be appearing very heavy for you to digest, right? But believe me, as we will proceed in this series, everything will be a kind of piece of cake for you, right? So just have some belief in the process, right? Okay. So I think now you have understood that what kind of thinker was Plato. You have understood the kind of ideas he has given. You have understood one of his critic was Aristotle. You have understood who were idealists and what you mean by materialist, right? Now, now we this discussion will be incomplete if we will not talk about the difference between the materialist and the realist. Materialist and realist, right? So realism is used in the specific sense in political theory. See, Machiavelli is basically known as the Machiavelli is basically known as the father of realism. We will also cover Machiavelli in the series only, right? So he was the first person to establish that politics is not ethics. So, right? So basically, what is the core difference between materialist, realist, idealist is, see, idealists are who actually say that idea is the real. So their conception of reality is idea is the real. Who are materialists? Who says that matter is the real, right? And if I talk about the difference, sorry, that about materialist and the realist, so uh, uh, the core difference is that see, materialists are someone who believes that matter is real, while realists are the opposite of idealism. So what idealism believes is that the idea is real, while realists say that idea is not real, right? They believe in reality. Okay. Now let me also talk about the let me also talk about the political idealism. Political idealism. So, what do you mean by political idealism? Right? So, let me just. Okay. So, for them, first of all, first point is very clear that for them, idea is real. Idea is real. First point is very simple. Second point is that whole is prior to the part. So what does this mean? See, this you can very easily understand is for them, the priority of state comes before the priority of the citizens, right? So citizens are the part of are prior to the state. You can simply understand by this. Third is no concept of rights, only concerned with duties. So यहाँ पे जो political idealism है, in this there is no concept of rights. There is the concept of duties. So whenever we say that state comes prior to the citizens, automatically we say that or the whole is prior to the part. Automatically we are saying that This one is more important than this, and hence this has some duties which this has to perform, so that in order to for the protection, or you can say sustenance of this, right? So see, everything, every point which I'm writing here, you are gonna understand each of the thing very clearly as we proceed. So please, please, please believe in the process. Fourth point is, there is no separation between ethics and politics. While, as I said, that Machiavelli, who is being considered as the father of realism, he has said, or he has actually established, that politics is not ethics at all. Right? What he says that ethics is something different, politics is something different. While the political idealists say that there is no separation between ethics and politics. Is it clear? Okay. Now coming to the main topic. So everything which we have discussed actually was to form the foundation, right? Now we are going to talk about Plato. Okay. See, it is usually said that every thinker is a product of his times. Now, what do I mean by this statement? When I say that every sorry, every thinker is the product of his times, then what do I mean by this? See, let me explain it with a very simple example. So consider yourself, right? You are living in 2022, right? So in 2022, the problems which you are facing, the problems which you are witnessing may be very different from the problems which people faced in 1922, let's say, right? Right? So, whatever perspective you will be holding about things will be influenced by the situations which are prevailing in 2022, or in the years, or in the or situations that you have faced in your life, right? They may be whatever perceptions towards the things you kind of holding, you're kind of holding, may be influenced by the situations that you have faced in your life, right? Or where you are living. For example, if a person is living in Delhi, then he or she might have strong views regarding the burning of crackers, because they actually face the circumstances, face the difficulties which because of the air pollution after burning of the crackers, right? So this is a situation, or this is kind of, you can say that their thoughts are being influenced by the place of their living. So what I want to say is that every thought which you are holding is either a product of whatever you have faced in your life, which ultimately means that in your time, right, whatever time you have spent on the mother earth, right? Similarly, whenever a thinker actually put his thoughts, whatever thoughts they hold, they are actually the product of whatever they have faced in their lives, or what they were facing in their lives, right? So, in order to understand the thoughts of a thinker, it is very important to understand that what kind of problems they were facing, because they actually make you understand, not only make you understand their thoughts, but they will all that will also make you very make for you very easy to critically examine their thoughts. It's not that you have to believe in their thoughts, you should be able to critically examine that what is right and what is wrong, but in whatever they are saying, right? Okay. So I hope you have understood that why I said that every thinker is a product of his times, right? Because whatever thoughts they hold is basically the product of whatever situations they were facing at the point they were there, right? Okay. Similar was the situation with the Plato. So Plato belongs to Athens. Athens, right? He belonged to Athens. So Athens was in very bad condition. It was in very bad condition. Why? Basically, there was a war between Sparta and Athens. And in that war, Athens was defeated. Athens was defeated. I think let me just go to a new slide. Right. So what I said that there was a war between Athens and Sparta, and Athens was defeated. Since Athens was defeated, right, as you all know that whenever a country is defeated, it has to pay. You can say it has to face repercussions of that defeat of that war, right? So when Athens was defeated, Plato was very eager to understand that what was the problem with Athens, because Athens was once one of the most prominent state. So Plato basically wanted to understand the reasons behind the downfall of Athens, right? Because he had the great love for his motherland and he wanted to make Athens an ideal state, right? He wants to make Athens an ideal state. Now, this is actually clear to us that Plato belonged to Athens. Athens was in a very bad condition. Why? Because there was a war between Sparta and Athens was defeated. Now, Plato, since he has a great love for his motherland, therefore he wants to make Athens an ideal state. Therefore, now he is exploring the reasons behind the downfall of Athens. Behind the downfall of Athens. Is it clear? Okay. So, what was the problem in Athens according to Plato? So, according to him, Athens was not a single city, right? See, as the name symbolize, as the name symbolize that Athens was a state or city, right? But according to Plato, it was not a single city. It was not a single city. Then if it was not a single city, then what was it? So according to Plato, it was actually divided into two cities. Number one, the city of rich, and number two, the city of poor. Right? Number one, the city of rich, and the number two, the city of poor. So ruling class was extremely rich, right? So ruling class was extremely rich, while majority was poor, right? Hence, what he wanted to convey was that despite patriotism, moral of the people was down. Hence, it became vulnerable to the external threats. So what he wants to convey is that who makes a state? People constitutes a state, right? And they not only constitutes a state, they are actually the power, or you can say the strength behind the state. And when the moral of these people will be low, then obviously the state will be vulnerable to external threats, because the low moral actually symbolizes the lack of confidence these people are holding in the ruling class or in the state, right? So when people themselves when the people of the state themselves lack confidence, then how it will be possible, even possible for the state to maintain itself, right? Therefore what he believed that since the moral of the people was low, therefore it made Athens vulnerable to the external threats. Okay, so we have understood this, but why was the moral of the people was low? Why? So what was actually the reason behind the bad state of governance in Athens? So what Athens said that the real factor behind such a state in Athens was the ignorance of the ruling class. Was the ignorance of the ruling class. What kind of ignorance? They were ignorant of their responsibilities, right? They were ignorant of their responsibilities. How? Basically, what he says that they were ignorant of the fact that public offices are not for private ends. That public offices are not for private end. See, just see the chronology of the events. What he said was that their city was divided into two parts, a city of rich and the city of poor. And the rich are basically from the ruling class. Then, why was such a divide? Because the ruling class was actually exploiting the public offices. They were not aware of their responsibilities. They were actually indulged in corruption. That's why money was getting concentrated into this class and it was not reaching to the needy ones, right? And this was actually the reason behind the low moral of the people. Sorry, is it clear? Now, what he said was, okay, there is corruption. Now, what was the reason behind it? The reason behind the corruption was the lack of good governance. Lack of good governance, right? Now, why there was a lack of good governance? Because there was corruption. So basically, what was that was that because people were ignorant, they were indulged in corruption, and because of corruption, there was a lack of good governance. And when there will be a lack of good governance, then obviously people will lack confidence into the government, right? So what was happening was that the ruling class in Athens was running after money and power. Why? It is because of their ignorance that they were thinking that money and power is the ultimate source of happiness. See, here comes a very important point. What he wants to say is that okay, he actually conveyed that okay, problem was the ignorance of the ruling class because they were indulged in corruption, and because of that there was lack of good governance. Now the question arises that why they were indulged in corruption? Why they were running after money and power? So what Plato said was that it was because of the ignorance, because they believed that real happiness real happiness lies in money and power, right? Is it clear? What why is what so is it was so? Because the people, the ruling class considered that the real happiness lies in money and power, therefore they were running after it, right? And Plato says that because ruling class was running after money and power, the entire so others also followed them, hence the entire society was corrupt. Entire society was corrupt, and this has made Athens internally weak and extremely vulnerable. Is it clear? Is it clear to you that what issue, or what how actually Plato is reaching to the problems which Athens is facing? See, the sequence of events is very important for you to understand, right? Okay, okay. So, till now, what we have understood is that what is the real problem that Plato is highlighting is the problem behind problem in running after money and power. Now, what are the problems in running after money and power? What he says is that money and power are limited, right? These are not something which is unlimited. These are limited. Therefore, it is bound to create a conflict. It is bound to create a conflict. So, according to Plato, We should run after things which are unlimited and which are permanent in nature, rather than running after the things which are limited in nature. Now, what are the things which are unlimited and permanent in nature? Unlimited and permanent in nature, what are those things? So, for those things are knowledge, character, duty, right? Therefore, hence, Plato's prescription is the institution of philosopher king, because this is the person who understands that that the real happiness lies in the knowledge, lies in obeying to your duties, right? And uh, not in running behind power and money. See, we will all understand why and how he reached to the institution of philosopher king. But this is I have introduced here just so that we can actually build bricks, brick by brick, right? It's not like that suddenly I introduce the concept of philosopher king to you and you get confused. So we are actually trying to reach to his ideas, right? To reach, or we are actually trying to peek into his mind, right? So this is how it is. I hope this is clear to you, right? Okay. Now, who was the source of influence on Plato? So I hope you have understood what was the problem which Athens was facing and how Plato has reached to the conclusion that the real problem that Athens was facing was that people in Athens were running behind money and power, which were limited. Therefore, it was bound to create a chaos. Okay. Okay. Okay, so what was the source of influence on Plato? As I have already told in the starting, at the starting of this video, that he was the disciple of Socrates. Therefore, the most important influence was the Socrates theory of knowledge. That is, knowledge is virtue. So, what Socrates said was that knowledge is virtue. Knowledge is virtue, which ultimately implies that ignorance is vice. Okay, right? So it has to be ruled by knowledge. So what Plato said that if Athens had to become a virtuous state, if Athens wants to become a virtuous state, then it has to be ruled by knowledge. Is it clear? Okay. Okay. So basically, uh, in the next videos, what we will going to cover is, first of all, we will cover the dominant ideas of Plato. That is Plato's theory of ideas, Plato's theory of justice, his theory of education, his theory of communism, his theory of philosophy, and then theory of ideal state. We will also do understand the critical evaluation of Plato as first fascist, Plato as totalitarian, Plato as the enemy of open society, Plato as first feminist, Plato as first communist, right? So everything we will understand in the upcoming videos. But before that, I want you to understand the place of Plato in the history of Western philosophy. See, Plato, as I have said, that Plato is being considered as the father of political philosophy, right? So one can see this is a very important statement, that one can either be Platonic or anti-Platonic. See, this is a very strong statement that in the political philosophy, one can either be Platonic or anti-Platonic. Means ultimately things revolves around Plato in political philosophy. One can either support Plato or one can either disagree with Plato, right? So this statement actually implies his importance in the political philosophy, and not only in political philosophy but also in UPSC, because a lot many questions have been continuously asked in uh, previous years, right, in this paper. Okay. Okay, so what was the methodology that Plato used, since he was a disciple of Aristotle, sorry, or of Socrates? So he also used the methodology of dialectics to prove his points, right? Okay. So this is all in this video. Now we are going to cover his theory of souls, right? Before the theory of ideas, it is very important to understand the theory of soul. So in the next video, we will cover the theory of souls. Okay. So till then, thanks a lot. Bye bye. Take care. And if you like this video, then please don't forget to like and subscribe this video. Thank you.